two men stand in the dark. One was trained to disappear into the ocean and emerge behind enemy lines without a single sound. The other was trained to endure pain that would kill most soldiers and keep moving. One fights for the world's most powerful military. The other fights for a nation that built its entire identity around surviving impossible wars. They are the US Navy SEALs and the Russian Spetsnaz. And the question the world has argued about for decades is simple. Who is actually stronger? Not who has the better equipment, not who has the bigger budget. Who is the more dangerous man, in the field, in the dark, face to face with death? Today, we answer that question. Let's start at the beginning. Because to understand what these men are, you have to understand where they came from. The US Navy SEALs were born from chaos. In the early days of World War II, American forces were struggling with amphibious landings. Soldiers were dying on beaches they had never scouted. Nobody knew what was underwater. Nobody knew where the mines were. So the US military created the underwater demolition teams. Frogmen. Men who swam into enemy harbors before the invasion, alone, in the dark, with nothing but a knife. From those men came the SEALs. President John F. Kennedy officially established SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2 in 1962. The mission? Sea, air, and land operations. Total flexibility, total lethality. Vietnam became their testing ground, and they passed. Now, the Spetsnaz. The word itself means Special Purpose Forces in Russian, but the history is darker and older. Soviet Special Operations units trace back to World War II. Partisan fighters, saboteurs, men sent deep into Nazi-occupied territory with orders to destroy, disrupt, and disappear. After the war, the Soviets formalized these units. During the Cold War, Spetsnaz operated globally, in Africa, in Afghanistan, in the shadows of conflicts most people never heard about. Their purpose was different from the SEALs. SEALs are surgical. They go in, complete the mission, come out. Spetsnaz were often designed for something more brutal. Large-scale disruption, assassination of NATO commanders, seizing nuclear facilities in the opening hours of a war. Different philosophies, different purposes, different men. Now here is where the real comparison begins. SEAL training is widely considered the hardest military selection process in the world. It starts with BUD/S, Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL training. 24 weeks, and that's just the beginning. Week 1 is normal, hard, but survivable. Then comes Hell Week. 5 days, 5.5 days to be precise. During Hell Week, candidates sleep a total of 4 hours. Not 4 hours a night, 4 hours total. They run over 200 miles. They carry boats on their heads through sand and surf. They sit in freezing Pacific Ocean water until their bodies begin shutting down. Instructors are not trying to make them stronger. They're trying to make them quit. The dropout rate across the full BUD/S pipeline regularly hits 70 to 80%. Most people who attempt to become a SEAL never become a SEAL. But surviving BUDS is only the first gate. After that comes SEAL qualification training, another 26 weeks. Weapons, demolitions, navigation, combat diving, parachuting. Then comes the most elite tier of all, SEAL Team 6, formerly known as devgru, Development Group. The unit that killed Osama bin Laden. The unit that rescues hostages. The unit that operates in places that don't officially exist. Getting into devgru requires years of SEAL service first, and then another brutal selection on top of that. Now let's talk about Spetsnaz selection. And here's the truth that surprises most people. There is no single Spetsnaz. In Russia, multiple agencies run their own special forces units, all called Spetsnaz. The GRU Spetsnaz, military intelligence. The FSB Spetsnaz, Federal Security Service. The Alpha Group, the most elite counterterrorism unit. The Vimpel Group, nuclear facility protection and covert operations. Each has different selection, different standards, different missions. But across the board, the training philosophy is the same. Break the man down to nothing. See what survives. Russian Spetsnaz candidates undergo brutal physical testing, hand-to-hand combat evaluations, and psychological stress testing. One of the most famous Spetsnaz traditions, the final test before being accepted, is a gauntlet. The candidate must fight his way through a line of his own unit members, all of them, one after another. It's not about winning every fight, it's about never stopping. Get knocked down, stand up. Get hit again, stand up again. Spetsnaz selection also includes extreme cold weather training, because Russia's operating environment demands it. Survival in temperatures of -40 degrees, navigation through blizzards, ambush tactics in dense forest. Both programs produce extraordinary soldiers, but they produce different kinds of extraordinary.
Let's break this down category by category. Combat diving. This is where the SEALs have a clear advantage. The entire SEAL identity was built on underwater warfare. They train relentlessly in open ocean conditions, long-distance combat swimming, underwater demolitions, submarine insertion. Spetsnaz units do receive combat diving training, but it is not their core identity. They are not frogmen. They are not built around the water. Edge, SEALs. Parachute operations. Both forces conduct halo and hey-ho jumps. High altitude, low opening, high altitude, high opening. Both are trained to insert from altitude, often at night, into denied territory. The Spetsnaz have an advantage in one specific area. They train more frequently for mass jumps, inserting larger numbers of troops simultaneously behind enemy lines. SEALs typically operate in smaller, more precise teams. Edge, even, with different emphases. Hand-to-hand combat. This is where Spetsnaz have a documented edge. Russian special forces are trained extensively in Sistema, a Russian martial art developed for military use. It emphasizes breathing, relaxation under stress, and continuous movement. It is not a sport martial art. It was designed to kill. Spetsnaz are also trained in Sambo, a lethal combination of wrestling and striking. SEALs receive combatives training. It is serious, but hand-to-hand combat is not the priority of an operator who carries a rifle. Edge, Spetsnaz. Marksmanship and firearms. U.S. Navy SEALs operate some of the most advanced weapons systems in the world. They have access to custom-built rifles, suppressors, night vision equipment that most militaries cannot match. Their marksmanship training is exceptional. Regular operators must qualify at extremely high standards. Devgru operators are among the most accurate shooters in any military on Earth. Russian Spetsnaz are also excellent marksmen, but they often operate with equipment that is less advanced at the unit level, though Russia's top-tier units, like Alpha Group, are very well equipped. Edge, SEALs, particularly at the equipment level. Psychological resilience. This is the hardest category to judge. Hell Week is specifically designed to break the psychological will of candidates. SEALs who survive it have been tested in ways that are almost impossible to replicate in combat.
But the Spetsnaz experience something different. They go to war more frequently and in environments that are unambiguously brutal. Afghanistan in the 1980s, Chechnya in the 1990s and 2000s, Syria, Ukraine. Spetsnaz soldiers have operated in sustained combat environments where failure meant not just death, but capture. And in some of those conflicts, capture was worse than death. That creates a different kind of hardness. Edge, even, different types of psychological toughness.
Let's talk about what actually happened when these men went to war. U.S. Navy SEALs in the global war on terror. After September 11, 2001, the SEALs became the tip of the American spear. Operation Red Wings in 2005, 4 SEALs against a Taliban force estimated at anywhere from 30 to 200 fighters. 3 SEALs died. Marcus Luttrell survived. The story became the book and film Lone Survivor. The raid that killed Osama bin Laden, May 2011. SEAL Team 6 conducted a 40-minute operation in Abbottabad, Pakistan. They neutralized 5 individuals, secured massive intelligence, and extracted without losing a single man. In Iraq and Afghanistan combined, SEAL operators were involved in thousands of direct action missions. The kill and capture rate was staggering. But the SEALs also suffered casualties because they were always at the front, always at the hardest target. Russian Spetsnaz in Chechnya and Syria. The Chechen Wars were a baptism by fire for post-Soviet Russia's special forces. The First Chechen War, 1994 to 1996, was a disaster for Russia's conventional forces. But Spetsnaz units often performed well in impossible conditions. The Nord-Ost Theater siege in 2002, Alpha Group and Wimpel Group assaulted a Moscow theater held by Chechen terrorists. They successfully neutralized all 40 terrorists. However, the gas used in the operation killed over 130 hostages, a controversial operation that the world still debates. In Syria, Russian Spetsnaz advisors and operators were on the ground from 2015 onward, working with Syrian forces, calling in airstrikes, conducting direct operations. The death of Alexander Prokhorenko in 2016, a Russian Special Forces officer who called in an airstrike on his own position when surrounded by ISIS fighters, became one of the most dramatic stories of modern warfare. Real combat, real cost, real results. So, who is actually stronger? The honest answer is, it depends on what you're asking them to do. If you need a 4-man team to infiltrate from the ocean, neutralize a high-value target in a fortified compound, and extract without a trace, the SEALs are almost certainly the better choice. Their maritime capabilities are unmatched. Their precision is extraordinary. Their intelligence integration, equipment quality, and operational support are the best in the world. If you need a unit to endure 6 months of sustained combat in a devastated urban environment with minimal support, living rough, absorbing casualties, and continuing to operate, the Spetsnaz have been tested in exactly that environment, repeatedly, in living memory. What both forces share is this: the selection process does not produce better athletes. It produces a specific type of human being. A man who, when everything is gone, the plan, the support, the hope, keeps moving forward. That is the real product of both programs. Not skills, not fitness, will. And in that category, both forces have earned their place among the most formidable warriors in human history. The debate between Spetsnaz and SEALs will never be settled by a conversation. It could only be settled in the field. And in the shadows, that contest has probably already happened in ways the world will never know. What we do know is this:
The man who survives BUD/S is not the strongest man who attempted it. He is the man who refused to quit. The man who passes Spetsnaz selection is not the most talented soldier in Russia. He is the man who stood back up every single time he was knocked down. Both nations have looked at the darkest requirements of war and found men willing to meet them. That is what these units truly are. Not just soldiers, not just operators, warriors. If you found this comparison worth watching, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe to War and Military History for more deep dive documentaries on the world's most elite forces, most decisive battles, and most explosive conflicts. And drop your verdict in the comments. Spetsnaz or SEALs? Who do you think is stronger? I'll see you in the next one.